It's the wee hours here in Canada, but it's the Japanese Grand Prix and we're making so much money. We're pulling all-nighters for the people. We're up 170% on our investments this year and we've got another 1,000 riding in Suzuka. This week, we're on Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. As always, the full show's on YouTube, but F1000 Highlight Show, Overnight Edition, starts now. Starting off, as always, with our lock of the week. This week, our lock is on the Mercedes. We've got both Mercedes to be classified in this race. It's minus 300, and we're going to put $400 on it this week. Mercedes. They are the class of reliability this year. We've got Lewis starting in P6. We've got George starting in P8. We started off in our live show by looking at them to both finish in the top 10, which was minus 275. For just 25 less basis points, we can get them to finish anywhere on the grid. They just have to finish, which they do. Last weekend in Singapore, George had every reason to DNF that race. He had contact. He was starting at the back of the grid. He still finished the race. The wet weather this week should only help Mercedes with their car's philosophy, naturally leading towards a more downforce-oriented track. We love their durability. We love the setup this week. It's our lock of the week. We've got $400 riding on Mercedes to both classify in this race. It's minus 300.
Right on. Our second bet is both Red Bulls on the podium at plus 162 for $125. And if you saw our tweet midweek, we think that Suzuka is a very similar layout to Zandvoort from a tire stress and downforce perspective. And back at the Dutch Grand Prix, it was Max who topped qualifying en route to an easy victory there. And there's no reason to think that it won't happen again at the Japanese Grand Prix. And that means that we need a resurgent Sergio Perez, Checo 2.0, chaps, to get one of those final two spots on the podium. He looked in incredible form last week, and we see that carrying into Japan, where he should be able to manage his tires well enough to compete with or beat both of the Ferraris. We were on the Red Bulls, both the podium at Suzuka, plus 162 for $125.
Awesome. And you know what? That's all great justification on the Red Bull, but let's double dip on that Red Bull a little bit. Our next bet this week, we're going to be on a combination TriCast. It's how it's defined. We've got Max, Charles, and Sergio Perez to be the top three in this race in any order. It's plus 500, and we're going to put $75 on this bet. Now, we just talked about the Red Bulls. They're going to be on the podium this week. It sets up amazingly for them. So basically, we're saying we've got Max and Checo popping bottles, but who's popping bottles with them? Well, really just comes down to those two Ferraris in this week. And you know what? We like Leclerc a little bit better than Carlos. We've seen it a lot this year. We've seen Max and Charles have the ability to just run away from the pack. Charles has the better pace, the better performance than Carlos. You know what? Max and Charles can run away from the pack. They can stay tight to the pack. At the end of the day, Leclerc is going to be that third car on the podium. It's essentially a 50-50 bet. We're looking at a 5 times return on this investment. We love those numbers. We're on it this week. It's a combination TriCast. Max, Charles, Checo, any order on the top three, plus 500, and we've got $75 on it.
Perfect. And finally, our favorite bet, Lando Norris to finish higher than Sebastian Vettel, Ricciardo, and Bottas at minus 250 for $400. So this type of opportunity doesn't really come along very often with Lando, especially in these group bets. And that's because in this particular circumstance, he didn't get a good setup in qualifying and he's going to start P10. But what that does is it creates a perfect set of circumstances, like I said, for this particular bet. The McLaren is more reliable than the Alfa Romeo. It's faster than the Aston Martin in the wet and in the dry conditions. And as we know, Norris is a superior teammate to Ricciardo. So when this type of value shows up on race day, you have to jump on it. That's why it's our favorite bet. Lando Norris to beat Vettel, Ricciardo, and Bottas at minus 250 for $400.
Did you like that? Then like it.